Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here with Brother Rome. We're going to review I Care a Lot.
And we're going to spoil it. We're going to talk about everything we want to talk about. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's an interesting movie. It's kind of a conversation starter like Malcolm and Marie, where people are bound to have lots of different opinions, but it's also kind of a fun one to think about.
Film is written and directed by Jay Blakeson and stars Rosamund Pike, as well as Peter Dinklage and Diane Wiest. It's very divisive, as you said, and on Rotten Tomatoes, it actually has a 35% audience score, even though critics generally like it. Yeah, it's like low. People hate it.
And wait, I would have thought it'd have more with audiences. I think they'd like it. It's very entertaining.
That I definitely have to give credits to the movie. It is very entertaining. I think it's slickly shot. I definitely enjoyed the very synthy score. And I like the performances a lot. I think Rosamund Pike's very good, and I think Peter Dinklage and Diane Wiest are pretty excellent. My main problem with the movie, there is very little to the central character. And there are some people who are like, oh, you just have a problem because she's a girl boss and she's a feminist and you're stop that. Like, maybe some people, sure. Not my problem with the movie. I'm totally fine with sympathizing with someone who is bad or sociopathic in a movie. But there has to be like something in there that I think is either redeemable or worth watching because it kind of tells us something about like the world we live in. For example, Jake Gyllenhaal's character in Nightcrawler, very irredeemable kind of sociopath. The reason that I think that character is kind of worth looking at is because he's able to thrive in this system, the media environment, in a way that tells us something about the media environment. This movie, yeah, she's kind of going in this system that involves like corrupt doctors and like a manipulatable judge. This reads to me as her doing it. Doesn't read to me as like being a scathing critique of a certain type of system. In the beginning of the movie, Rosamund Pike's like, they're predators, they're preys. I am the predator. And in the end of the movie, she's like, they're predators and preys. And I am the predator. And I'm like, well, that's a cool character arc that you kind of just double down on your own personality.
I don't disagree completely with things that you said, but I quite like this movie. And that's saying something because I was very bothered by the premise. You kind of watch somebody being taken hostage and being preyed upon, who at first seems like very innocent. This was just like disturbing and gross. I wanted the character to fail. Like, I really wanted the protagonist throughout the entire movie to fail. Like, there was no point. Some people say they're kind of rooting for her. I was never rooting for her. I was always rooting for this person to be freed. That's the only thing I was rooting for in the movie. It's not just that I can't sympathize with a bad character. It's that it seemed like it wanted me to think that she was cool for a little bit, and I wasn't okay with that. As I started watching, I felt like, no, it's not really about that. We're supposed to get a sort of like enjoyment out of watching the cruelty, but in sort of like a darkly comedic way, in a way that we kind of enjoy like watching the absurdity of how like dedicated these people are and how inhumane they can be. There's something that titillates us about that. And I found that actually like kind of sunk into me more, and it really started to help me enjoy the movie. Overall, I think it was a very well directed movie. Like, I could see this director going places. I could see him being very hounded after in Hollywood after this. And overall, like the kind of movie this was and how much it leaned into that, the way that it embraced like the dark comedy genre, I think it was very successful in that. And it was very thrilling throughout. In terms of the whole like capitalism critique, it's absolutely going for that. I mean, there's the whole predator prey monologue in the beginning. That's part of the reason why I was not liking it in the first part. I would never accept that premise, really. Like, I understand that in some ways it is true, but it's so reductive, and it pins people down to like, if you are not a predator, then you are like someone who is being preyed upon. That's like very wrong to me, and I don't think that life reflects that, because I just don't share that outlook at all. And to the extent to which the movie wanted me to buy that, I didn't enjoy that. I think that you could take it as her character's philosophy. She certainly, that is a belief that shapes her character, undoubtedly. When you are after money and that's all you want, like, you can get that, and you can get it more easily when you stop caring about other people. That's definitely not the only path to like being successful. And it's also weird that money is sort of the only thing that this person cares about. Yep. I get that she has a girlfriend. Right. She has a girlfriend. She likes that. But it also felt a little bit weird that she doesn't even care about her own life that much. It's almost like the drive to success is greater than the drive to even have like a happy sort of fulfilling life. Because she doesn't even care if she dies. Like, that, the thought of dying, she says, doesn't even bother her. Their purpose in living is just completely vapid. Like, all they want from life is just to succeed in terms of getting rich and climbing to the top
Yeah, and that for me was kind of like, cool, this person's not really a human being. Like, I'm watching a movie with an interesting character. Like, on the surface, she's an interesting character. But if there's not much for me to explore throughout the movie about the central character, then I'm being treated to an entertaining series of things that happen. That's kind of the category this movie became. It's like, things that happened. I'm not going to say I never enjoyed any of it. I actually got a little more into it when she sort of met Peter Dinklage. The sort of battle between them was kind of funny at parts. I remember the first time thinking the movie was funny was when she met with the guy that Peter Dinklage sent like to her office. I remember that was funny. I want to know why you liked it more than me, because you seem to kind of agree that the character's not much of a human being and there's not much development of this character. What happened?
The way that they laid her out in such a simple concept that, okay, if I can accept that all she cares about is climbing to the top, then when she was met by Peter Dinklage as like this equally unstoppable force, I saw that as being a great stage for the drama that ensued. And it really started to entertain me. Like, okay, if you do have a force that's so purely like this, and they meet another force that's so purely like that, like what happens? And seeing them kind of battle that out, it's entertaining. And it kind of does like dig into, a little part of us that enjoys the maniacalness of that. And I also think that was a good example of strong writing. The fact that the antagonist and the protagonist were very similar and they were equally unstoppable. And so it knew what it wanted to be very clearly. And so when I accepted that premise, I actually did really end up enjoying the movie. I'm kind of middled on the critique of capitalism. I actually really like the ending where they team up, because that to me seems true. Like when you have a lot of money, you cannot be taken down. Like there's nothing that can really push you under. And the fact that they both end up being more successful from it actually was something that resonates with me about how our world is and how the movie is sort of reflecting that. The other part of the ending that was interesting is that she dies. She gets shot by like some guy who...
The guy from Blue Ruin.
I recognize that character as being like the proletariat. When you have like this oppressive system hanging over people, like eventually they will retaliate. The interesting part was that it didn't feel like a victory at all. And there's really no toppling down of this massive wealth and power these people have accumulated. Even killing her, like she's more of a vessel for these atrocities to carry out through, but like they're still happening everywhere. There's no way to bring these people down. Even her death doesn't really bring her down.
Well, how does her death not bring her down, though? It doesn't feel like, well, now there's going to be somebody take the place, and it didn't do anything. Like, it genuinely feels like she is the force, that if she wasn't doing this, people would be okay.
And she's also not the only narcissistic person in the movie. Like, the doctors who are giving her, like, tips and everything.
Yeah, but that's also why it didn't feel as real to me, because it's like the fact that you need a doctor who is also a sociopath, like...
It's not quite as real, but it's saying, if you did have enough sociopathic people, there's always ways to game the system. And I think that is true.
It's almost a cliche at this point. Like, sociopaths are the best at succeeding because they don't care about people. You step on people and you get to the top. And also, I think it would have been more compelling for me if like the character maybe came from less, because when we meet her, she's already like pretty rich and she's just like, I would like even more. Like, she could stop. She could take her girlfriend to, like, New Hampshire and live in the woods.
That she's never going to stop. I would never make a movie like this because my view of, like, humanity is
not as cynical.
It's not going to be like that. It would be a completely different film if she had a redeemable quality in her. She does not need all this stuff. She's after excessive power and excessive control. Like, this movie really leaned into that.
It didn't feel that much like this was a issue that actually happens to people. And also kind of indirectly, Nightcrawler being about the media and being about the news, which we watch and like we contribute to the ratings, kind of says something about us. This movie kind of felt like it was saying something about bad people that we, the audience, like, we don't have to think about ourselves as being involved in this in any way. It just kind of seemed very simple. Like, this character's mean as fuck. They're gaming the system and they're getting away with it because they're mean as fuck. If you think that says a lot about society, then like, okay.
Yeah,
then...
I don't think it says a lot about society.
Yeah,
because it only encompasses a very narrow view of what society is.
I would give the movie like the credit of saying that it doesn't really want you to root for the character, but I actually don't know if I could say it for sure. Like, maybe the movie does want you to root for the character. I think it kind of does want you to think that she's cool.
What I don't think it did well, I haven't seen anybody bring this up. The fact that she survived was by pure chance. The fact that there was a lack of competence to not give her a big enough dose that when she's in the car, she can't wake up. That's a little bit of like a vulnerability in creating a strong and kind of realistic character, because up to that point, it absolutely made me believe that they wouldn't make a mistake like that. And so for them to not actually kill her and to not actually kill her girlfriend seemed strange to me.
They could have drowned her in a bathtub and then put her in the car.
They had to have her survive, and the story is better because she survives, but it definitely made me not believe that that would have happened. I believe that she lost. And there's no reason that she really is able to get out of it, like, except that they were kind of faultily negligent.
I do think that the Diane Weiss character could have been given a little more. She sort of disappears after a point, and there was a point in the middle of the movie where I was wondering, like, is this character like secretly on top of Rosamund Pike? Like, what if this character games her? That would be fucking satisfying as shit. There could have been something constructed there in my view. I think there was potential for that.
Rosamund Pike, she was very good in it. Like, it's clear that she can play this character extremely well. However, I'm not as like fawning over the performance as others are, because I simply don't think this character has much range. Like, when we're seeing her do evil things, she smiles, and that's what we expect of her to do. That's exactly what everything has been set up for the character. You know, she's very basic and simple. Because the character has no range, like, it doesn't leave there for a lot unexpected to happen. We don't see her like break at any point.
Another thing, how many people are like this, where they are completely fine with causing people harm? They don't think twice about it. They're completely sociopathic, right? I could buy that Rosamund Pike is maybe like a dime a dozen in that way, but it's weird that her girlfriend is the exact same way and they never have a problem with it. I just imagine there could be an interesting conflict where like her girlfriend's like, yeah, we're gaming the system. Like, you know, let's get some money and get out. And she's like, no, like, I'm in this.
But that's like, there's no reason for them to stop doing it.
No, I'm fine with Rosamund Pike not having a reason to stop, but like, what if her girlfriend's like,
yeah, but
oh
she
shit,
would be the reason.
You are more than me. Wow, I didn't even know that. The fact that that's the only relationship that she has in the entire world, the only thing in the entire world she actually cares about is her girlfriend.
It's the only part of, I agree that it's the only part of her that is human, because something cares about her, something loves her. So that makes her more important. It makes her life valuable.
If a person is like that, then their love for another person is entirely selfish. Are these characters okay with each other being just completely selfishly in love?
I think that they genuinely liked and enjoyed each other.
All right, well, if they liked and enjoyed each other, I want to know more about the side of Rosamund Pike that actually is not completely 100% sociopathic. I mean, in my opinion, a more interesting character than someone who's 100% a sociopath is someone who's 99% a sociopath.
Some people would probably argue she's 99%.
I don't see any of it.
So I would definitely recommend this movie. It was really entertaining for me. Like, I didn't start out liking it, and then it just like roped me in. I would give this 7.5, and fuck you, I'm going in the middle.
I'm giving it a 5. It's a good 5. Like, it's an entertaining movie, but I just fundamentally wasn't invested enough to say that it was a fresh in my mind. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Do you have feelings?